The shout that changed everything. Jake Walker sat alone in the cold metal control room of Outpost 17X, a small space station on the edge of known space. He was an engineer, not a fighter, not a hero. Just a guy who fixed broken machines and talked to himself to stay sane. His radio was silent. His coffee was cold. And his boredom was endless. He leaned back in his chair and stared at the blinking screen. Nothing interesting ever happened out here. Until tonight. A red light flashed on the wall. Then another. Alarms screamed across the station. Intruder alert. Jake jumped out of his chair, heart racing. What the hell? He whispered. Who would break into this place? There's nothing here. He grabbed the small stun gun from the wall, mostly for rats, and moved toward the hallway. The lights flickered. The power dipped for a second, then returned. Then came the sound. A growl. Low, deep, angry, not human. His hands shook. He stepped back, breathing fast. Something was in the station. A shadow moved across the hallway. Big, tall, claws scraping the floor, glowing yellow eyes in the dark. Nope, Jake whispered. Nope, nope, nope. He ran back to the control room and slammed the door shut, but before he could lock it, the door hissed open again. And there she was. An alien, tall, muscular, covered in silver-gray fur. Long ears, sharp claws. She looked like a mix of wolf and woman. Not fully beast, not fully human. And very, very real. She stepped into the room, her eyes locked on him. Jake did the only thing he could think of. He screamed. Back off, beast. I'm not afraid of you. His voice echoed across the room. Strong, loud, panicked. The creature froze. Then she tilted her head. Her ears perked up. Her eyes sparkled with surprise. Then she smiled. You yelled at me, she said in a deep, accented voice. Bold, loud, proud. You are brave. Jake blinked. What? She took a step closer, claws tapping on the floor. You have challenged me. In my culture, that means only one thing. And what's that? Jake asked, raising the stun gun with both hands. She placed a clawed hand over her heart and said softly, We are now bonded. You are my mate. Jake dropped the stun gun. Wait. What? What? She stepped even closer. Your roar was strong. You have chosen me. Do not be afraid, husband. Jake backed up until he hit the wall. Husband. I just yelled. I wasn't proposing anything. The alien gave a pleased growl. Yes, and you did it in front of the stars. Perfect tradition. It's not tradition. I was trying to scare you away. She nodded. And you did. Right into your arms. Jake stared at her, mouth open. This can't be real. This has to be a dream. The alien sat down calmly on the floor, folding her legs like it was her home. My name is Lyra of the Moonclaw. I accept your bond. I will protect you. Jake slowly slid down the wall, sitting opposite her, stunned. Okay, Lyra, listen. I think there's been a mistake. I don't want to be bonded, or married, or clawed to death. Lyra tilted her head again. You are afraid. Yes. Good, she said, smiling. That means you understand the danger. You will make a wise mate. Jake rubbed his face. Oh no. Oh no. I've married a space werewolf. Lyra leaned forward. What is a werewolf? Nothing. Just a human horror story. Never mind. She nodded slowly, as if trying to understand his strange human words. Then, without warning, the station lights flickered again. A loud thud echoed from the hallway. Jake stood up fast. What now? Lyra stood too, suddenly alert. Her eyes narrowed. Someone followed me here. Wait, you're not alone. No, she said. They want to take me back, but they will not touch you. She reached for a sharp, curved blade on her belt. Jake's heart dropped. Oh great, not only am I married to an alien werewolf, but now her angry family is here. Do not worry, Lyra said. I will defend our nest. This isn't a nest. This is a space station. The door lights flashed red again. Someone was outside. More footsteps. More growls. Lyra stood in front of him like a shield. Jake closed his eyes. I just wanted a quiet job in space. The door hissed open, and everything changed again. Marriage? No thanks. The door opened with a slow hiss, cold air rushing into the control room. Jake held his breath, pressed against the wall. Lyra, the alien werewolf, stood in front of him like a guardian, blade in hand, eyes glowing. But nothing came in. Not yet. Then, shadows moved. 1, 2, 3 figures stepped inside. Taller than Lyra, all covered in armor made of dark stone and metal, their faces hidden behind masks with glowing blue lines. They looked like ancient hunters from some nightmare jungle. They spoke in a language Jake didn't understand. Sharp, clicking sounds mixed with growls. Lyra answered in the same strange tongue. Her voice was steady, calm, but firm, like a leader giving a warning. Jake whispered, "Are they your people?" "Yes," Lyra said without looking at him. "They followed me across the stars. They want me to return." "Great. Maybe you should go, and take the marriage with you." She growled, but it wasn't anger, more like amusement. "You chose me, Jake Walker. I will not leave my mate behind." He groaned. For the last time, it wasn't a proposal. I was screaming. Out of fear. Fear is not love. To us, fear is the beginning, she said calmly. The lead hunter stepped forward. He held out a strange curved blade. But instead of attacking, he slammed it into the floor. A challenge. He spoke again. Lyra shook her head. Then, suddenly, all three turned toward Jake. They looked him up and down. "Avo," Jake muttered. "Why are they looking at me like that?" "They don't believe you are worthy," Lyra said. "They want to test you." "Test? How?" "Combat." Jake stared at her, then burst out laughing. "You're kidding, right? I can't fight alien warriors. I barely passed gym class." Lyra didn't smile. "If you lose, they will take me away. And maybe you as well." Jake froze. "Me? Why?" "Because now you are part of my clan, even if you don't understand it yet." Before he could argue, the hunters moved. They cleared the center of the room. One dropped a round energy field, a glowing circle that shimmered with light, a dueling ring. The leader gestured for Jake to step inside. Lyra looked at him, serious for the first time. "Do not show fear. You yelled once. Yell again." "That's not a strategy." But he stepped forward, heart pounding, hands shaking. One of the hunters stepped in to face him. Huge, taller than Lyra, holding a short staff made of bone and sparks. Jake had nothing but a flashlight and an old wrench. "Okay," he muttered. Think. You've seen movies. Fake it till you make it." The hunter lunged. Jake yelped and rolled sideways, barely dodging the hit. The staff slammed the floor where he stood a second ago. He swung his wrench wildly. It hit the hunter's shoulder, made a small spark. The alien didn't flinch. "This is bad," Jake muttered. The hunter moved again. Faster. Jake tripped over a chair and fell flat. The hunter raised the staff. No. Jake did the only thing his brain told him to do. He grabbed the flashlight and shined it directly into the hunter's eyes. The alien screamed. It dropped the staff, clutching its face. The room went silent. Even Lyra looked surprised. The other two hunters stepped back. The light, something in the spectrum, must have hurt them more than expected. Jake stood, flashlight still on, breathing hard. "I win." Lyra smiled. "You used your mind, not your claws. Very human, Very clever. The leader stood again, groaning. He bowed slightly. A respectful nod. Then the 3 hunters backed away and exited the room, leaving the 2 of them alone once more. Jake sat on the floor, exhausted. Please tell me that's not how marriage works here. Trial by combat. Not always, Lyra said. Sometimes we use poetry. Great, Jake said. Maybe next time I can throw a haiku at them. She sat beside him, calm as ever. You are not like the others. You don't say. Your heart beat fast, but you did not run. You faced them. They respect that now. I didn't do it for respect. I did it because I'm trapped here and terrified. She looked at him for a moment. And still you stayed. That quieted him. They sat in silence for a few moments. Then he stood. Okay. Now that your people are gone, and I've won the marriage tournament or whatever, can we talk about unbonding? Lyra looked up at him with a strange, unreadable expression. Why? She asked softly. Because I didn't ask for this. She nodded once. Then, calmly, she said, then maybe we should go ask. Ask who? She stood. The ancient council. They created the bond traditions. If anyone can break it, it's them. Jake sighed in relief. Finally, some logic. Let's go find this council and... A loud bang cut him off. The floor shook. The lights flickered again. Lyra's eyes narrowed. That's not one of mine. What now? Jake asked, grabbing the wrench again. Lyra sniffed the air, then growled deeply. Something else has entered the station. Something worse. The culture clash. The power flickered again. For a few seconds, the only light in the control room came from the soft blue glow of the emergency panels. Jake stood frozen, one hand clutching his wrench, the other shaking slightly. Beside him, Lyra moved with animal grace, eyes narrowed, muscles tense. It's not your people, Jake asked. No, she replied, her voice low. This scent is wrong, old, cold. It should not exist. Jake stared at her. What do you mean it shouldn't exist? We're on a space station, not a haunted house. But Lyra wasn't listening. She tilted her head, sniffing the air like a hunting dog. Then she muttered something in her language, short and sharp, and turned toward the hallway. Wait, Jake hissed. You're just walking toward the spooky noise. What happened to talking things out? You cannot talk to something that no longer thinks, she said. That didn't help Jake's anxiety. They moved through the dim hallway. Jake's boots echoed softly, while Lyra's steps made no sound at all. They passed broken light panels, a vent still rattling from the earlier fight, and a smear of dark oil on the wall. The station had never felt so unfamiliar, so wrong. So, about this bond thing, Jake whispered, mostly to distract himself from the growing dread. I know you think we're married, but I don't even know your favorite food. Live meat, she said calmly. Cool. Super normal. They turned a corner. Jake nearly screamed. A maintenance droid, torn in half, sparked, and twitched on the floor. Not destroyed by a weapon, but ripped, like by claws. Jake looked at Lyra. Your people didn't do this. We do not kill machines for sport, she replied. Great, Jake muttered. Mystery monster on a space station. Classic. They reached the central lab chamber, dark, wide, and filled with glass equipment. Jake stepped inside first, and immediately slipped on something wet. He looked down. Not oil. Blood. Okay, I'm officially done, Jake shouted. No more bonding, no more warrior tests, no more creepy alien things crawling around my home. Shh, Lyra hissed, crouching low. It hears loud voices. Of course it does, Jake groaned. Because everything here wants to kill me or marry me. He backed up toward the door. But then something moved behind the glass tanks. A shadow. Large. Not like Lyra. Not like the hunters. Slower, but heavier. and watching. The creature didn't attack. Not yet. It waited, as if curious. Jake's voice dropped to a whisper. "Is that the thing you smelled?" Lyra gave a slow nod. "Not from this galaxy." "How do you know that?" "Because I have never feared like this before." That was not comforting. Jake and Lyra slowly backed out of the room, but the creature didn't follow. Not yet. It remained in the shadows, silent, as if thinking or remembering. Once they were back in the hallway, Jake leaned against the wall. "Okay, what is happening? I thought this was just a misunderstanding with your people. Now there's a blood-covered alien nightmare stalking the halls." "Not everything is about the bond," Lyra said quietly. "Some dangers are older than us both." "Great. You guys should really put that in the marriage brochure." They made their way back to the engineering bay, Jake's comfort zone. He booted up the emergency power systems, trying to restore more light to the station. Lyra stood near the door, guarding. As the lights flickered back on, Jake finally exhaled. "Okay," he said. "We need a plan. First, contact Earth. Second, survive the mystery monster. Third, convince your people this marriage was an accident." "They already believe you now," Lyra said. "You passed the trial. The bond is real to them. Not to me." She looked at him for a long time. "Do you hate me for it?" He paused. "No. I'm just confused, scared, tired." Her ears twitched. "But you stayed," she said softly. "Even when the hunters came, even when the creature appeared, you stayed." "Because I didn't have much choice," he snapped, but then stopped. "Okay, maybe I could have run. Maybe. But I didn't want to leave you alone." Lyra's eyes softened for the first time. Just then, a crackle came through the radio. "Outpost 17X, this is command. Do you copy? We've received your emergency signal." Jake rushed to the mic. Yes, this is Jake Walker. I'm alive, and not alone. Send help, fast." A pause. "We detected life signs we can't identify. Sending extraction team. Be ready in 12 hours. Jake collapsed in the chair. "We're gonna make it." Lyra looked unsure. "Why do you look like that's bad news?" Jake asked. "Because if they find out about the bond, your people might try to separate us. Or worse, experiment on me." Jake opened his mouth, then closed it. He hadn't thought of that. Suddenly, the monster in the shadows didn't feel like the only danger. Trouble from the past. The clock on the wall blinked red. 11 hours left until the extraction team arrived. Jake sat in the engineering bay, staring at the old dented floor. Beside him, Lyra stood like a statue, alert, ears twitching with every distant sound. The strange creature, the one hiding in the shadows of the station, hadn't moved again. Not yet. It was watching, waiting. But it wasn't the only thing Jake was worried about. He looked up at Lyra. "You haven't said anything for 30 minutes. I am listening." "To what?" "To who might come next." Her voice had changed. Sharper, more focused. Something was bothering her. "It's not just the thing in the shadows, is it?" Jake asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she slowly turned and walked to the control console. Her claws tapped softly on the edge. Her eyes were distant now, filled with something Jake hadn't seen before. Fear, not of danger, but of memory. He stood. "Lyra, talk to me. What aren't you telling me?" She hesitated, then finally said, "I ran from my people. Not just because of the bond. Not just to be free." Jake waited. "They wanted me to marry someone else," she said. "A male chosen by the elders. He is powerful, bloodthirsty, and dangerous. And you said no. I refused him during the blood trial. It was a public insult. Unforgivable. So, you ran. I had to. But he didn't take it well. He swore he would find me, kill whoever stood beside me, and drag me back in chains." Jake took a deep breath. "And now he knows you're here." Lyra nodded. His name is Vor. Even the name made her growl. Let me guess, Jake said. He's huge, violent, and really into tribal revenge stories. He is worse than anything you faced. Even the creature on this station fears him. Jake blinked. Wait. That thing fears him. A sharp clang echoed from the lower deck. Both of them froze. Lyra didn't move. Her ears locked onto the sound. He's here, she said quietly. Already. He must have followed my ship's signal. He would not come alone. Jake grabbed the flashlight and wrench again, like a kid holding a toy sword before a dragon. You're not fighting him alone, he said. She turned. You will die. Yeah, probably, Jake replied. But if we're bonded, and you're serious about that, then we fight together. A flicker of respect passed through her eyes. She nodded once. They moved quickly through the dark corridors. Jake's heart pounded. Every shadow looked alive. Every creak sounded like a footstep. Finally, they reached the central airlock, the main entrance of the station. The door had already been opened. Something, or someone, had arrived. Stay back, Lyra said. No chance, Jake whispered. They peeked into the main cargo bay and saw him. Vor. He stood like a mountain, wrapped in dark red armor, his fur pitch black, eyes glowing like hot coals. Two curved axes hung from his back. He looked like something from an ancient war. Behind him, 4 more warriors stood, smaller but no less deadly. He smiled when he saw Lyra. So this is where the traitor hides, he growled. Jake stepped forward without thinking. You must be Vor. Nice to meet you. You're terrifying. Vor stared at him. This your pet? He asked Lyra. He is my mate, Lyra said firmly. Jake coughed, still debating that. But okay. Vor bared his teeth. A human. This is who you ran to. You broke your oath for this soft-blooded coward. Say what you want, Jake said. But she chose me, and I didn't need to threaten her with chains. The room went silent. Then Vor laughed, a deep, dark sound that echoed across the walls. You've got spirit, human, he said. I like that. Too bad you'll be dead in an hour. Then he turned to Lyra. You have one chance. Return with me now. End this foolish game, or I will kill him and burn this place to ash. Lyra didn't answer. Instead, she stepped forward, drew her blade, and said calmly, You always did talk too much. Jake whispered, I love the confidence, but what's the plan? We divide them. Draw them into the reactor room. Overload the lights. Blind them like you did before. And then we fight. Great. As Vor's warriors began to fan out, Jake and Lyra bolted in the other direction, disappearing into the twisting metal corridors. The chase had begun. But Jake wasn't just running anymore. This time, he was running with her. Healing and feelings. The door slammed shut behind them. Jake locked the emergency bulkhead with trembling fingers, his breath sharp and uneven. Lyra stood beside him, her fur matted with blood. Some hers, some not. Her shoulder had a deep slash across it, still glowing faintly blue where the blade had touched her. Sit down, he said quickly. You're hurt. I can stand, she replied, trying to steady herself. Yeah. Well, I can barely breathe, and I'm not the one bleeding out, he snapped. It came out harsher than he meant, but he didn't take it back. Adrenaline was still buzzing in his veins. His legs felt like jelly, and his mind kept replaying the last few minutes on a loop. Vor swinging his axe, the explosion in the corridor, Lyra throwing herself in front of Jake to take the hit. She finally collapsed onto the floor, groaning. Her claws left faint marks on the wall as she slid down. Jake grabbed the medkit, barely stocked, mostly human supplies, and sat beside her. This might sting. Do what you must, she muttered, biting down on her own forearm. He cleaned the wound with shaking hands. Glowing blue blood ran down her arm. "You're lucky this didn't go deeper." I moved just in time. "No, you jumped in front of me," Jake said. "Why?" Lyra looked at him. Her expression was unreadable. "Because you are mine." He sighed. "We've been over this bond thing." "Not just that," she said softly. "Not tradition. Not blood. Not tribe." She looked down. "You spoke for me. Against four. You stood between me and a past you do not even understand. No one has ever done that." Jake didn't know what to say. So he kept working, wrapping the wound in gauze, pressing the sealant foam. Her breathing slowed. Her body relaxed. "You know," he said, voice low, "you scared the hell out of me when you got hit." She looked at him again. He added, "And I don't mean in the alien warrior bride way. I mean, I thought you were going to die. And I realized, in that moment, that I didn't want to lose you. Not just because of the danger. Not because of the bond." Lyra didn't speak. So he kept going. "You're strange, yeah. Terrifying sometimes. You eat raw things. And your people have a really weird marriage system. But you're also strong, brave, loyal. You saved my life more than once. And," he paused, looked at her, "you listen. Really listen." A silence hung in the room like smoke. Then Lyra leaned forward. "We may come from different worlds," she said, "but our hearts are not so different." They sat there, quiet, the tension between them not sharp now, but soft, warming, like a fire in cold air. Jake looked away first, embarrassed. He stood. "Okay, we need a plan. Vor's probably still hunting us, and the extraction team is coming in 6 hours. We have to be alive to greet them." Lyra nodded, slowly standing. But before they could speak more, the station lights flickered again, not the random flicker from before. This time, it was a pulse, rhythmic, mechanical. Then the emergency speaker crackled to life. A voice came through. But it wasn't human, and it wasn't Vor. It spoke in a language Jake didn't recognize. Deep, guttural, like metal grinding on metal. Lyra's eyes widened. That is not him. Then what is it? She turned slowly. Something ancient. Something that should not be awake. "You said that before. I thought it was dead," she whispered. "What is it?" Lyra looked at him. This station was built on ruins, long before humans came. The darkness below. It was sealed for a reason. The walls groaned. The air turned cold. And then, a message printed on the terminal screen. "You are not the first to bond here." Jake stared. "What the hell does that mean?" "It means this place remembers," Lyra said. "And it may not want to let us go." "The Great Escape," the screen kept blinking. "You are not the first to bond here." Jake stared at the message. The room felt colder, not just in temperature, something deeper, like the air itself was remembering pain. "What does it mean?" Jake whispered. Lyra didn't answer right away. She stepped toward the console, claws tapping on the floor, eyes narrowing. "This station was built by humans," she said. "But the core was not theirs. Your kind built over something they didn't understand." "How do you know that?" "Because my people have stories of this place. A station that speaks, that listens, that binds." Jake felt a chill crawl up his spine. "Are you saying this place causes bonds?" "Not just causes," she said. "Tests them." A low hum passed through the floor, a mechanical vibration, deep and slow, like something waking up beneath them. The screen changed. A new message appeared. "Trial phase initiated. Prove your unity. Survive." Before either of them could react, the lights shut off. The floor shifted, not a quake, but a real movement. Something had unlocked. A hidden panel behind the wall slid open, revealing a staircase they had never seen before. "That wasn't there yesterday," Jake said, already backing up. It wants us to go down, Lyra said grimly. Well, I vote we don't. But they didn't get to vote. A loud explosion rocked the far end of the station, a burst of flame and pressure. The backup systems began to fail. Jake looked at the power grid. It's forcing us down, he said, cutting off exits, flooding the upper decks. Lyra grabbed his hand. It surprised him. Then we go, together. They moved. The stairs led them deeper than Jake thought the station even had. Past the usual decks, past the engine floor, down into old metal, scratched walls, and symbols that didn't belong to any known language. Glowing, pulsing like veins in a living body. Jake's flashlight flickered. I hate this, he whispered. Lyra growled softly. You are not alone. Yeah, and I'm still terrified. At the bottom of the stairs, they reached a massive circular room. In the center, a platform. Floating just above it, a black sphere, swirling with mist, whispering words Jake couldn't quite hear. This wasn't made by humans, he said. No, Lyra agreed. This is older. On the walls around them, holograms activated, playing silent scenes. Jake and Lyra watched. Scenes of other pairs, human and alien, standing like them, fighting side by side, bonding, breaking, some dying, some being changed. This is a proving ground, Lyra said. A test. A test for what? For how strong the connection is between two living things. Jake stepped forward. You think this ancient machine is testing us because it thinks we're together. We are, Lyra said quietly. Jake didn't reply. Not yet. Suddenly, the ground shook again, violently. From the far wall, a massive gate opened. Something stepped out. Not a creature. Not quite a machine either. Something in between. It had a humanoid shape, but its limbs were stretched unnaturally. Wires ran through its body like veins. Where its face should be, there was only light. And the sound of thousands of overlapping whispers. It moved toward them. Fast. Run, Jake yelled. They sprinted through the lower halls, turning corners, climbing rusted ladders, avoiding collapsing beams. The whole station was beginning to shake apart from the inside, like the old system had woken up and found itself angry. They burst back into the upper deck. Jake rushed to the console. Emergency call. Override protocols. Come on, come on. He typed furiously, trying to open the outer hatch. Lyra turned to cover him, her blade ready, eyes fixed on the dark hallway behind them. We don't have time, she said. It's coming. I know. A red dot flashed on the screen. Incoming ship detected. Jake gasped. They're here. The extraction team is here. He opened the outer airlock. The escape tunnel extended toward the docking platform. Let's go. They ran through the tunnel, metal creaking behind them. The shadow followed. It wasn't running, but it was always close. It didn't need speed. The station itself was helping it. Finally, they'd reached the small extraction pod. Jake jumped into the seat, activating the launch code. Lyra paused at the door. You have to choose, she said. What? If you enter this pod, the bond may break. The station will let you go. Jake looked at her. What about you? I am not human. I may not survive outside this place without being hunted. He stared at her, the woman who had protected him, scared him, fought for him, changed him. Then we go together, he said. He grabbed her hand, pulled her in. The pod sealed. The engines hummed. Just as the shadow reached the edge of the hatch, the pod launched, escaping into the stars, leaving the broken station. And its ancient secrets behind. Jake looked at Lyra. She was bruised, bleeding, but she was alive. And she was his. So, he said breathlessly, do all first dates go like this in your culture? Lyra gave a weak grin. Second date will have fewer explosions, she said. They both laughed. But outside, Far behind them, the black station turned slowly in the dark, and something inside it watched them go. Home is you. The stars outside the window were quiet. Cold, distant, endless. Jake sat inside the extraction pod, breathing slowly. Not from fear this time, but from something heavier. The kind of quiet that comes after everything breaks. Lyra lay beside him, head against the pod wall. Her eyes were closed, her chest rising and falling in slow rhythm. She was alive, but barely, still healing from the wounds left by Vor, and the thing that had hunted them through the station's core. Jake didn't speak. There was nothing left to say. Not yet. The pod moved through space, heading for Earth's outer defense station. ETA, 48 minutes. And Jake was terrified again. Not of death, not of aliens, not of ancient machines buried in metal. He was afraid of what came next. Earth Command didn't believe him at first. An ancient station testing alien bonds. An elite warrior clan chasing you. An ancient AI trying to judge your relationship. He told them everything, left nothing out. He even handed over the data core, all the recordings from the station, the logs, the messages. And still, they didn't get it. What they did care about was Lyra. They saw her as a security threat. Alien tech, potential weapon. They put her in medical quarantine, locked in a sealed chamber, studied, scanned, questioned. Jake watched it all from behind glass, powerless. "She saved me," he kept saying. "She's not dangerous to us. She protected me when no one else would." But to the officials, it didn't matter. Rules were rules. The bond meant nothing to them. "We'll keep her here for observation," one officer said, "just until we know more." Jake didn't wait for permission. He broke in that night, stole a pass card, shut off 2 cameras, bribed a distracted guard with coffee and a sad story. Then he slipped into her room. She sat on the floor, arms crossed, eyes dim. When she saw him, her ears perked slightly. "You came," she said softly. "Of course I did," Jake replied. "I told you, together, remember? I thought you would forget me. Once you were safe. I wasn't safe. Not without you." He knelt in front of her, took her hand. "They're going to separate us," she said. "Maybe forever. Then we run again," he said. "Where?" He smiled. "I hear Mars has nice sunsets." She blinked. "You would leave your world for me." He nodded. "I'd leave everything. Because home isn't Earth anymore, not without you." For a long time, she said nothing. Then she leaned forward and touched her forehead to his. "You finally accept the bond," she whispered. He laughed. "Yeah, but next time, let me be the one to yell first." But their escape didn't go unnoticed. An alert was raised. Security was chasing them through the lower decks of the orbital station. "Keep going," Jake shouted as they ran through a long corridor, alarms flashing red. Lyra was slower, still healing, but her steps were sure. They reached the launch bay. Just one shuttle. Jake hit the door controls, locked them behind them. "Where to?" Lyra asked, breathing hard. "Anywhere but here." They climbed aboard, started the engines. Outside, guards pounded the doors. Too late. The ship broke free, soared into the black. They traveled for weeks. No destination, no map, just together. Jake fixed systems. Lyra hunted small asteroid beasts for meat. They talked, laughed, sometimes argued, but never once did Jake wish he'd stayed behind. One night, Jake stood on the viewing deck, watching the stars. Lyra joined him silently. "What is it?" she asked. "Just thinking," he said. "About what?" "About how everything started with one stupid sentence." Lyra smirked. "You yelled at me." "I did. And that made us mates." "Apparently," he said, chuckling. "If I hadn't shown up on your station," she said, "would you have ever left Earth?" He paused. "No, I probably would have stayed there forever. Alone, fixing broken lights and pretending I was okay. She looked at him. Do you regret yelling? He turned to her. Not for a second. They stood together in silence, watching a comet pass by, leaving a silver trail across the dark. Weeks later, on a dusty moon outside known space, they landed. No cities, no guards, no stations, just stars above and quiet sand beneath. Jake set up a small shelter. Lyra marked the territory with carved symbols of her clan, their clan now. No alarms, no war, just them. And finally, peace, but far away. In the dark corners of forgotten space, the old station flickered back to life. The sphere hovered again, and a new message lit the screen. Bond confirmed, but not the last. Next trial begins soon.